Yo, what's going on, guys? It's G Miners here, and Wendigo is finally farmable this week only. I'm like 90% sure I didn't miss a week where it was farmable. Maybe I did, but either way, if you don't get a decent Wendigo roll this week, then you are only going to be able to farm it effectively in GMs the last week of the season. Going into Lightfall, Bungie has announced that a meta shift is in the works, specifically in context to meta damage options. So assuming that linear fusion rifles get hit hard, I would say heavy grenade launchers have somewhat of a chance to shine again. And Wendigo is going to be one of the best options to run if that ends up being the case. So in this video, I'm going to be going over the best rolls to look for on Wendigo so that you have the best options going into next season. As always, if you guys do enjoy the video, dropping a like and sub helps me out a ton, and we're only 1,000 subs away from hitting 50k. Starting off with Wendigo, there are going to be a few really good options to get, depending on how good this thing becomes. So starting off with the main launch perk in the first column, this shouldn't make a huge difference overall, but the main thing you want to go for is quick launch. Quick launch gives handling and velocity. If you do get hard launch, this is solid for just velocity, and then countermass is solid for just handling. But again, quick launch just gives you the absolute best of both worlds. For your grenade perk, spike nades are going to be pretty much a must-have as they increase impact damage by 50%. Impact damage is a smaller portion of the total damage that GLs deal, but it's definitely not insignificant, making spike nades just too good not to have on. But I will say that proximity nades are also something that may be worth having too. If we end up getting a boss that moves around a lot with a smaller hitbox in the new raid, landing your shots will be much more important than having some extra damage. As far as the real perks go, the first column has 3 amazing options. First and foremost is auto-loading holster. Plain and simple, this just reloads your weapon while it's stowed, which will make it perfect for combining Wendigo with a special weapon in a DPS rotation. Most notably will be something like Izanagi's Burden, Arbalest, or even Cloud Strike. I personally see this being the most realistic DPS method next season if we do get a GL buff, because GLs would need a massive buff to just be usable on their own. The second perk to shoot for is going to be Field Prep. This increases your base reserves, which is great for total damage output and nearly maxes out reload speed when you're crouched. I could also see this being usable in situations where you may just dump all your GL ammo and then switch to a special weapon afterwards. And in general, for easier boss bakes that have less health, Field Prep's going to be amazing. But I will admit that a Luna faction Well of Radiance does make the reload speed that it provides kind of pointless. Third and final in the first column is Clown Cartridge. This gives a randomly increased mag size when reloading, anywhere from 10 to 50% more, which should mean you always have 7 to 9 grenades in each mag, other than maybe the first mag before you're able to actually reload. This perk is great for getting off a quicker DPS rotation, but compared to autoloading, it doesn't allow you to effectively swap with a special weapon, and it doesn't give increased reserves like Field Prep does for higher damage output. I think it's a great option for certain situations, but it won't be as strong on a GL as it is on something like Rockets. And then finally, moving over to the fourth column, there are 2 main options I wanted to mention that will increase Wendigo's damage pretty efficiently. First and foremost, because it was the OG curated role, we have Explosive Light. This is going to be a massive 44% increase in damage. However, you can only store 6 charges of Explosive Light at max for each orb you pick up, so this is really only going to increase these shots. Wendigo does have 17 rounds at base, so this 44% increase goes all the way down to a 15.5% increase in terms of total damage. You can increase this slightly with some orb generation during DPS phases, but that would just require a consistent setup. Second to this, in my opinion, is going to be the perk Full Court. In order for Full Court to actually be better than just having ×6 Explosive Light, you're going to need to be at least 35 meters away from a boss, and then any extra distance up to 50 meters will make this increasingly better, up to a 25% increase. I think if a boss is far enough away, then Full Court is a fine option to maybe have as a backup perk. Looking over the other perks that I do think people might mention, Frenzy could be solid, but pretty much equivalent damage compared to Explosive Light. This obviously will make Frenzy a better option if you take reserves into account, but I feel like Explosive Light is easier to manage than Frenzy when going into a damage phase. Golden Tricorn could also be very solid for very specific boss phases where you need burst DPS, and there are an abundant amount of ads nearby to proc the 50% damage increase, but this would be a lot of setup. And then lastly, Cascade Point, which is brand new, could also be great for weapon swapping DPS phases, but this will increase DPS at the cost of damage output. So overall, I would say that I'm going to be personally aiming for an auto-loading explosive light roll with spike grenades, and then probably a clown cartridge explosive light roll as well. I might also try and get something half decent with proximity nades just in case, and the only reason I'm not going to be trying for field prep as much is because you only seem to get one extra round with base reserves. For the purpose of this video, I didn't want to do any DPS testing with Wendigo and make it super long, but rather just highlight the best rolls to go for. If you guys did want to see some in-depth DPS testing, let me know in the comments below. I haven't gotten the best rolls for this thing yet, so I'll need to get some better options first, but I can definitely do that if it's something you want to see. Let me know if you think GLs stand a chance to be viable next season with the linear nerf, and I do also stream a bunch over on my Twitch where we do low mans and speedruns live. A link to that and my Discord are both in the description below. Anyways, that's all for this video, guys. As always, have a good one. Peace.